My name is Lesley Cuthbert. I'm 69 years old and I was treated by Ian Paterson in 2006, February, March time of that year. I had a bleed from my right nipple and I went to see my GP who referred me to Mr. Paterson on the NHS. He then told me that I had got cancerous cells in my right breast and precancerous cells in my left breast. And he also told me that it was urgent that I had an operation as soon as possible. We had at the time a small Bupa policy which would cover us for the operation. So my husband asked about it being done privately and he fitted us in at the Spire Parkway Hospital within a few days. He removed the major milk ducts from both breasts and he then kept me going back for several years for checkups. Apparently they were precancerous in my right breast and my left one was totally clear, absolutely nothing wrong with it. So it was devastating to learn that he had taken out our milk ducts for no reason whatsoever. The trauma was, it was quite bad.
We obviously investigated her claim by obtaining the medical records and noticing that she'd had numerous surgical procedures. We notified Mr. Paterson, the Trust and Spire of her claim, and it's been added to one of the claims that is part of the case which is going to the civil courts in October this year. I was first instructed in 2010 by a lady who had been diagnosed with breast cancer after she'd had a mastectomy. And we got the medical records. And I couldn't understand why, if she'd had a mastectomy, she had a recurrence of breast cancer within that breast tissue. My understanding of a mastectomy was that all of the toxic breast tissue would be removed, so there would be nothing for the breast cancer to return to. Obtained the medical records and a report from an expert who was, I suppose, as confused as I was as to why this woman had developed this. And his report was actually unsupportive. It came to a stage where we had to look at what are we going to do next. Do we say to this lady, we're turning this case down, or do I say to her, I'll take further steps? I went back to the medical records and there was a letter in the medical records from a doctor at the Royal Marsden Hospital in London, which was almost like a cryptic clue that this wasn't right, that the operation that this lady had had performed by Mr. Paterson in 2006, it wasn't a conventional procedure. She didn't say that in so many words, but it was written in a way which made me think there is more to this. The news stories about Mr. Paterson performing cleavage-sparing mastectomies had started coming through. So when that expert looked at it and he realised the reason why this lady had had a recurrence within that residual breast tissue is because Mr. Paterson had performed a cleavage-sparing mastectomy and hadn't removed all of the breast tissue. Mr. Paterson had such a good reputation that the first expert felt very reluctant to criticise him when he couldn't actually find any evidence because the lady had had immediate reconstruction, so you couldn't tell whether there was residual breast tissue underneath that skin. I was then instructed by another lady who felt very strongly about the issue and felt very strongly that other women may have been affected by Mr. Paterson, and she asked me to put out a call for action. then contacted by quite a few of the women. And also at that stage I was working very closely with the GMC, because I decided that every client that came forward, I would report their case to the GMC on the basis that if the GMC had a number of complainants, they would take action in relation to whether he was fit to practice. Claims for the women who had surgery on the NHS have all been settled, because the NHS accept that he was their employee, he was acting negligently, he was carrying out operations that he shouldn't have been performing. Those women have had compensation which provides them with some comfort and ability to get on with their lives. They can pay their bills, and women have lost their jobs, so they couldn't pay their mortgages, they didn't have any income, so they've got something to move forward with. However, the women who had surgery in the private sector, and a lot of the time when they were deceived into having surgery in the private sector, such as Lesley, by being told that there was too long a wait on the NHS, those claims are still outstanding, because Spire Healthcare, where the operations were performed, is saying that he was not their employee and therefore they're not liable for his acts or omissions. The Trust is involved on the basis that they failed to take steps to control Mr. Paterson. They held him out as an NHS consultant, and Spire used that accreditation to give him practicing privileges at the private hospitals, even though both hospitals were fully aware that there were concerns about the operations that he was carrying out.
I really thought justice has been done. All the people that he did maltreat, it was a sense of relief for everyone, I think, concerned.
It was a mix of emotions. It was the conclusion of all those years of pursuing him, and the years where I used to think, he's going to get away with this, they're not going to take the steps that are required. This man exploited the vulnerability of the women that presented to him. He manipulated them. He made them believe he was saving their lives when in fact he was carrying out all these unnecessary operations.
The physical scars, the mental scars, they're going to be with all of us for the rest of our lives, but at least it's given us a chance to move on now. Kashmir has been absolutely fantastic. Her support has been incredible, and if it wasn't for Kashmir, this case may never have come to light. All the hard work she did, getting the women and men to come forward, it's been incredible. She put so much work into it. And her and her team, I just cannot thank them enough for what they've done and for all the support that they've given me and everyone else.
I welcome the news that Jeremy Hunt is going to hold an investigation into the events that happened at the Heart of England NHS Foundation Trust and Spire Healthcare. I would like that to be a full public inquiry. I think we need to get to the truth of what happened. If there's a public inquiry, although that may be a more costly way of investigating this at this stage, it will save public funds in the long run, because it will make sure that lessons are learned and action is taken and steps are implemented to prevent this kind of thing happening again in the future.